suis émerveillé de te voir, ça fait combien d'années?
À l'époque, je vous aimais tous les deux.
To answer your questions, directed by Arnaud Desplechin, as I was saying in French and in Basque. We've got Velosky, co-scriptwriter, Nadia Tereszkiewicz, the actress. We've got François, the actor, and Hippolyte de Girardot, also the actor of the film, who are prepared to answer your questions, and I am going to give you the floor.
I'm sorry to ask in English, but it's better than mauvais français. Your movie is a love story for different perspectives. We can say it's like a reflection on melancholy, of loss, but it's also a touching tribute to music. What does music symbolize to this story, and how does your own connection with classical music, with piano, comes in this film to create this environment? Congratulations for such an amazing story.
Oh, thank you so much. The music came from an original idea from Kamen Velosky, because Kamen proposed me the story of this pianist coming back home after a long time abroad, in his hometown to play the last concerto, with his mentor. But, to me, you were asking, what music symbolized to me is that I knew that, so this story that Kamen brought to me, I mixed it, with the melodrama, which is the portrait of Claude, and Claude being a young widow and the journey she has to go through. And so I thought that the making a film as a melodrama and knowing all the pain that Matthias will have to go through, and knowing the loneliness of each character, Elena, even Max, all of them are so alone, that I thought that music could be a solace. It could calm down the pain. It could give you a good reason to live. So that's, I knew that I would ask to the actors to go through very violent feelings, and so I needed the music to soothe the pain.
Hola, buenos días. Yo quería preguntar a los actores cómo fue el trabajo.
I would like to ask the actors how you portrayed those scenes that were so enigmatic and so climatic with your characters, and also for the director, what was it like to direct them and to address and to shoot those scenes? I remember one of the scenes that I liked is when she's on the telephone saying that she can't continue, and he on the other end is on the other end of the phone, obviously worn out, and he's I like that scene with the telephone, but how did you shoot those types of scenes? Thank you.
Do I respond in English? I think that every actor had a special relationship with Arnaud. We had like our own a path and journey, and we didn't really talk about what the other was feeling, so that when I was living this scene, I didn't know what was happening behind the phone, and in that way we would be surprised by the other one and discover the story even if we already knew it. So I liked that way of working, to not know everything, and just to know what you're feeling and then be surprised by the other one, what the other actors are proposing. So.
May I say something before you?
Vas-y, je t'en prie.
No, what Nadia was saying is I have a stupid trick. is that we had a long time of reading through the lines, studying the lines, the script, the different scenes, etc., with each one of them, but never together. So that way, Nadia didn't know she was the keeper of one part of the secret of the movie. And François was the keeper of another secret, and Max and Hippolyte was, had the treasure, which was his own truth about the film. But the film after that, as Nadia was saying, what I love is that for them to be surprised, to see the surprise of François in front of the fantasy of Hippolyte was a gift, an absolute gift.
Yes. Pretty much the same. And I think it helps the story in itself. Because my character has been away for like 8 years, and I think, of course, Claude lived in his mind for that long, but at that point it's only a fantasy, it's only imagination and projection. So for us not to connect before the shooting, we kept that thing growing in ourselves, and to confront it on the day of the shooting was really rich, I think.
Bonjour, j'ai une question pour François Civil. Je voulais savoir si tu avais un rapport avec la musique ou avec
I have a question for François Civil. I would like to know whether you played the piano or you knew music before playing this character. Yes, if you ask in French, I'll answer in French. I think it's quite logical. When I knew that Arnaud had thought about me for the character, I thought it was terrifying. I was very afraid because I know his style, the way he works. Well, everyone has whatever they have, but I was quite afraid. I think it's quite more than him. When I saw that the character was a musician, I feel relaxed. I said, well, okay, maybe I can construct something. Because when I was a child, I played the piano. I'd forgotten I had to remember all of this, but my life has been linked to music, funk, rock and roll, and so on and so forth. But music is always a key issue in my life. But a short while ago, my great-grandmother, she accompanied on the piano the films, the silent films, and Avignon, so therefore it's a way of closing a circle. And I didn't know it. End of answer. But what a guy. I have a question for the scriptwriters. When you started the work, when you started the writing of the script,
How we share the co-writing.
Well, originally, the story, the first, the birth of where it started is I was in New York and I was riding the subway and I saw this kid and I'm like, he looks like I looked at his age. This is so strange. And then probably a month later, I was reading this book of short stories by an Argentinian writer, and in one of the short stories, a character sees a kid on a bus that looks exactly like him. So I was like, this just happened to me, this is so strange. So I kind of started exploring that, of like who that person is, and then I brought it to Arnaud, and Arnaud really liked the mystery of it all, and then he said, but of course there's a young widow also. And then he brought the melodrama of his story in it, and we kind of made a marriage of the two of them. And you guys will say how successful that was, I guess.
Arnaud?
No, I could just conclude, what happened, I could just say that I had this. To me, the process started with a young widow in a cemetery, during the funeral, saying a stupid, obscene Jewish story, and she's awfully embarrassed, and it's awfully embarrassing. And I thought it's a good start. And I could say, and after that, Kamen proposed me the story of the child, and etc. And I say to Kamen, but it's the same story, so now how can we fix it in a film in two parts, And I could say that what I loved in the script, and thanks to Kamen, is that the melodrama was haunted by ghosts, and because of this story that you brought.
sorry, me again. Hugo from Brazil.
Lovely.
You can answer in French if you want. Two questions. It's a movie about music somehow, but there is silence everywhere. What does silence symbolize to this story and to you as a tool to develop your melodrama? And a second question. I think one of the best dialogues of this festival, I know the festival is just at the beginning, but I hate Debussy. It's an amazing and brave sentence to be told and very tricky. If you could say about, not about this, I don't want to know if you like Debussy or not, but you write in a very delicate way. What's your process to write to characters like this, introduce their internal anguish?
I can't say about the silence, it will, my films are so talkative that I will sound silly in front of you saying that when I'm going to see a film in a theater, I'm 12 years old, which means that I'm looking at adults saying words. I'm just listening to the noise that the characters are doing. I love Ingmar Bergman. I don't listen at all what they are saying. I'm listening to the lovely noise of adults, arguing, being despair, being happy, cursing each other, etc. That's what I love. It's the noise of human being. So that's why I'm not that fascinated by silence, because all human beings are speaking. And a camera and a sound recorder can record that, And after that, about the dialogues, I should thank the actors, because during the shooting, I was always asking them to break the dialogues, Though, what I love is that when a character or an actor or an actress surprises himself or herself saying something bigger than him. And that's what I loved, Okay, I asked them before arriving here, please, let's be short. I will be too long. Sorry about that. Sorry, I will be too long. Okay. I remember a film by François Truffaut. It was just before my first film. I saw it on the TV, and you had, the main hero touching the cheek of a young lady. It was in the two English girl and the continent. And the girl was asking, why do you do that? And Jean-Pierre Léaud was answering, because you come from Earth, and I think that I like that. And I thought, okay, this is a big line. I love it, And this will be my work, is to invent these moments when you are surprised, because what you are saying is larger than you. And that's what I proposed to Nadia, Hippolyte, and François. It's when suddenly they are saying words which are beyond everything. I will be briefer.
Hola. Bueno, pues yo también voy a repetir.
Hi, I'm going to repeat my question. Before, François, you explained the piano, playing the piano. I'd like to ask, Charlotte Rampling is not here, but I will ask how did she manage to play the piano, whether she knew how to play the piano beforehand, or how did that work? Thank you.
Charlotte knows everything about classical piano, and so when I met her, she said, I love classical piano so much that I won't play a note for your film. I will accept the part and I won't play a note. And say, okay, how can we do, And after that, we have different tricks. We have different, we have a
double pass.
A double pass or stuff like that, etc. But she was playing the piano. When she was playing the Debussy, when she's alone on stage, etc., she played bits of it, but she was so respectful with the piano, etc. With François, who is coming from the rock music, it was totally different, because he was saying, I don't have to be respectful. I love the part and I love the music and embrace the tunes, And I have a wonderful memory. Is at one point, because François was always saying, I can play that tune by myself. I don't need a double pass. I can play it. And I was saying, I don't give a shit. What I'm interested in too is your feelings. The piano I can trick. But And François, just before the last scene, during the audition, François 2 days before has been to the sound recorder and whispered to him, put some mics in the piano, because Arnaud could have the use of my sound, And so that's how we did, And I said to François, we have all the pianists with the other clever pianists, etc., able to play the tune, etc. And actually, that's the sound that we did use, for the mix. Is François' sound, for the last bar piece that he's playing during the audition.
A mí me gustaría hacer una pregunta ahí.
I would like to ask a question to Hippolyte Girardot.
On sait bien que Arnaud Desplechin est très cinéphile, n'est-ce pas?
We know that Desplechin likes films, he's a cinephile, and he likes to present classical films, and I would like to know whether you had any classical references once you prepared this role or not. No. No, not at all.
Je ne sais pas quoi dire, non, pas du tout, pas du tout.
I don't know what to say, no, not at all.
Voilà. D'ailleurs, si François faisait du funk, il s'occupe de la même manière de François.
François
Maman, donc voilà.
does funk, well, we do funk. We're not going to discuss what kids do, everyone does whatever they want to do. I would like to know whether the character existed. That perhaps he was like a guardian angel who saves her while she was reading the script. And then when I saw you portraying the role, but at the end, perhaps it was like a ghost or a volatile sort of spirit. Did you see me anchored sufficiently in realities for me to understand it? Well, I know that was a very big compliment I was giving you. I was watching the character like Jiminy Cricket, the company of Pinocchio. I was watching it like that.
En fait, vous, les journalistes, vous avez toujours des analogies assez marrantes parce que ce matin, quelqu'un a dit.
The journalists make very strange analysis. It was like Sancho Panza. Now it's Jiminy Cricket. I don't know. Perhaps there are other analogies, but I think we'll have to ask Arnaud. What I like, as I was saying before, is the system of little secrets that each of the actors have before we start shooting. And it seems to me that at a given moment Max tells the whole truth. And it's a phrase like, there are some times and we have to throw everything out the door at a certain given moment in life. For example, these are people that are concerned about everything. They can't repair certain things. Sometimes what they have to do is to leave. That's what Max says. At a given moment, you have to leave. And that's the core of the film, really.
No, lovely. If you could say a few words, sorry for a technical question, but especially in the scenes with the piano, the sound engineer of the film is amazing. If you could say, you can please answer in French, not a problem, but if you could tell us a bit about the sound of the film, I would really appreciate it. And a question to the actors, once again, answer in French, not a problem. I can understand, but I speak French terribly.
No, you're polite. It's because you're embarrassed with my broken English. That's why you are asking me to answer you in French. Okay. I got it.
We can try my native Portuguese if you prefer. If you could say a few words about the preparation of the characters and how was the process of working with Arnaud, especially since he mentioned the strength of the dialogues. How was preparing the dialogues between you both? If you could say a few words about that. Thank you.
I will be brief about the sound. I worked as an editor, I worked as a DP, I worked as an electrician, I worked as a gripman. I never worked as a sound engineer, so I don't know a thing about recording sound. So I have a very simple ethic, I'm hiring the best in France, and we have one of the best school of recording sound in France. You remember the Sergio Leone was working, with the French sound recorder. It's a common knowledge. So I can't answer to your question, but I would love to hear you about how you broke the text and brought your own insights into the lines.
François.
Je sais pas. Non, parce qu'on parlait
Well, before we were talking about the piano was easy to address. It was sufficient to spend some time there with the piano. It was a pleasure. But I remember the first readings with Arnaud of the script, to look at the text, he said, no, let's do it slowly, bit by bit, and we read the text bit by bit. We asked ourselves questions, and I wrote, and so he spent 8 years in Japan. Did he pick up girls? And you didn't want to answer too much. He said, perhaps he did, perhaps he didn't. And he understood that I had to imagine it and to draw out my own conclusion or my own secret. And it was quite exciting and thrilling to address those questions. Just like people, when they see the film, why did he leave 8 years ago? Because he was afraid to become a great pianist because of Elena, or was he afraid of Claude because of Pierre? And for example, the praise of the few isn't there something noble in deciding not to fight? All of those issues allowed me to construct the character through the shoot, and it was exciting. Did you have pick-up girls in Japan? Yes, I did. Everybody wants to know the answer to this, and that was the case. Now I'm going to speak in French. I wanted to praise Nadia and François. When I met François, I asked him a question because he did not understand Matthias's character. Claude's he did, because I was Claude in another life, but not Matthias. I've never played the piano, nothing in common there. And I said, well, how do we do this? Because Matthias is very passive, and he allows life to go by, and this drives Hippolyte crazy. He can't handle this. And he says, well, when we've got actors, we have to do actions, otherwise the audience doesn't like that. We have to be active. And François, I said something marvelous. I know everything about pain and sorrow and love, and one decides to be passive. Everything they do is an action. So therefore, that moment in which I discover he was obeying Claude's initiative, that was an action. I didn't understand this before, and I owe that to François. Now, talking about Nadia, when we talked about this, Nadia, there's something there which is, Claude is a kind of woman that we see very little nowadays. She liked to be the mother of her son. She liked to be the girlfriend of Albuquerque, all of this. But all of a sudden, she discovers the power she has over Matthias, and she rediscovers herself. She starts to exist on her own grounds. To see a woman's character that reconquers herself, I think it's fantastic. But she gains herself as a woman.
Yo tengo curiosidad por...
A question for the child. How did you find that child, the boy? Whether there was what was the casting process to find the boy? Well, we saw a lot of boys in Paris and Lyon. We chose a boy from Lyon who was fantastic because we didn't break his routine at home. The days he shot, then he would go to school normally. There was no difference between his work and his daily life, which was great, with young Valentin. And he understood that it's a story which is very complicated, which would represent, but he understood everything that he portrayed or in his character. Just now and again we had to say, well, listen, you've got to do this, and he was fantastic. This drew my attention. I was quite surprised. And the other two actors, they said, Nadia, you're going to do a great job. Hippolyte, you made a mistake. He was unbearable, but at the moment, and we started to shoot, he was present. He understood everything we told him, but he's a young kid, timid. He's an orphan. It was a blessing to have Valentin Picard with us. And this is something that I lived also in a film that had to do with adoptions. Yes, Kings and Queen. It's another film that I shot. It's a boy who, all the contrary, who had suffered a lot. But Valentin Picard is very healthy, but they both understood what they had to do. So therefore, I don't direct these actors. I don't manipulate something. We talk, and we can go. I can sharing this with that young person like that was marvelous, very pleasant. He allowed us to understand the text in another way. We knew what he was going to say, but there were 2 or 3 scenes when he made me understand the sense of the scene at that time, because he had understood it, what was being said. And when he portrays all of that feeling, you receive it much better. Hi, congratulations for the film. One of the things that most surprised me is the good relationship Pierre's character has with Matthias despite everything. I remember one of the things that François Matthias' character said, he doesn't even know whether he fell in love with Nadia or with Pierre. How come they've got a very good relationship? How did you approach this?
J'ai grand cœur.
I've got a big heart. I haven't got an answer. No, don't look at me. Excuse me.
C'est ces phrases qui sont plus grandes. Mathias se surprend à dire, en fait, j'étais amoureux de qui?
Yes, at the end of the day, Matthias surprises himself. Well, I'm not too sure I'm in love with him or her. And that's where that feeling of suspense and surprise occurs, because it's the moment in which the character understands that reality at the same time that I'm shooting it. The truth is that in my erotic ethic is like this, you don't have to share it, but I don't believe that you can steal anyone's wife. A woman is not an object, it's not an animal, it's not merchandise. For example, a woman gives birth to a child, and at the end, what I think is sublime is that Claude decides to give the son to Pierre. He could have done it to Pierre, Matthias, but he gives it to Pierre. So there's no rivalry, because at the end of the day, there's no shadow in that friendship. And so I think that is what Judith's character explains in the car, when it set the basis, the foundations of their friendship. Pierre came from Jewish immigrants from the north of Africa, humble, financially speaking. And when we see the Matthias apartment, we see there's not a family that has had a lot of money, and they've been successful. They've been able to have an art gallery and to be a great pianist. And so therefore the fact that we can achieve things by struggling for them and fighting for them, that sets the basis of their friendship. Any further questions? Perhaps one final thing that you would like to say? Is there anything you want to add, François, perhaps?
No.
No? Okay, well, thank you very much to all of you.
Deux pianos.